Hi, bye.
Hello.
And hello to our dear viewers of the Logging Off podcast. Sorry we were gone last week. Stuff.
SoCal
SoCal
stuff.
moment. Then
Yeah.
Anna wins.
Yep.
It gets dark at 4:30. Coping with all of those things. Fires.
Yeah. What's crazy is I was thinking literally just before that fire happened that we hadn't had a fire in a while.
I was
Or we were
thinking
having
the same
that
thing.
conversation.
Yeah. We
Well,
were
I
like,
think we might have
wow,
talked about it.
we got through fire season.
Yeah. Psych.
Psych.
Didn't want to breathe.
Yeah, so it made me feel sick. I don't know
Yeah.
if it made you feel sick those
Our
last couple
throats.
days.
It was gnarly.
Hi, Ashy. Welcome to the table. You want to join the podcast? He's finally accepted our chairs.
before I go to bed.
Yeah, they just ate breakfast, they just ate their first meal of the day, so now it's nap time.
They woke up, they
Right.
fought, they ate, and now it's
Mhm.
sleep time.
Ashy and Ahsoka, they didn't cuddle, but Ashy came up to lay next to me, and Ahsoka came up and wasn't touching him, but was like maybe an inch or two between them, which is big because Ashy doesn't like when Ahsoka encroaches on his space at all.
Oh.
Yeah, he gets real hissy about it. He doesn't actually hiss. He makes like this complaining noises and smacks her. So they
Yeah.
seem to be getting along better. More
They're
lovingly.
friends.
They're friends. They are friends. It's weird. They used to cuddle a lot. But when we moved
When
here,
she
it
was
changed
baby.
a bit. Yeah. She's not baby anymore. She's got so much personality, doesn't she?
She's also like, I feel like she doesn't necessarily abide by the
No.
alpha beta structure.
No, she's spoiled. She's so spoiled.
She's like very fluid. She's like, sometimes she'll be the beta, and then other times
I know.
she'll say it's my time to shine, and then other times she'll say I'm not anything.
Yeah. She tries to groom their heads, which is low-key crazy for the lowest. Actually, I think Murdy is the lowest in the tier list of our, not in our hearts, but in the hierarchy. Pretty sure Murdy is the lowest.
Yeah,
He doesn't care.
Like the connection you
likes it.
made. We just finished rewatching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which was the first like new show that neither of us had watched. That was the first show we watched after we got married.
Oh yeah, that wasn't a rewatch for one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just rewatched it, and
Oh,
Boyle is like
Charles Boyle.
he says how he's like, I don't remember exactly how he words it, but it's like a beta alpha.
Yeah,
or something
beta
like that.
alpha. Like he uses his beta skills to get other people to alpha for him and do things for him.
Yeah.
So like he's the mastermind actually.
Yeah. And that is definitely Murdoch. Like
Yeah.
Murdoch will beta himself so that Asher or Ahsoka can clean him.
Clean
or,
him, groom him, cuddle with him, protect him. Look out around the corner for him.
Yeah. But yeah, so I feel like just because Ahsoka is what's it called? An anarchist.
Yeah, the kid's an anarchist.
Ashley doesn't like it sometimes.
No, he was a single cat for a while, and he seemed happy but kind of bored.
Yeah.
Like he would always be the one to initiate playing with us, and he used to hide around the corners to try to jump scare us. It was really cute.
Oh yeah.
But now he does that to them,
Yeah.
which is fine. I'd rather him have too many beings to play with than not enough.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a little sick today, so it was a combination of things. I'm a little sick, so I don't want to talk that much. But Joshua we teased it on the previous episode. Joshua has accomplished something and started something that you've already talked about. If you listen to the comic room, you've already heard about it. But for the people who don't know, what have you done? What have you done?
So I have rented a space to start dealing comics.
Yeah.
Or leasing, I guess, is the more official term.
You have an office now.
I have an office space that I go to, and dealing comics out of there.
Yeah.
So I bought a big collection with a lot of crazy books. Like, I'm talking the first appearance of the Avengers.
Yeah.
Keys,
major keys.
Yeah, the first appearance of Swamp Thing. If you're like a DC person, then you know that book is a hard to find book. A third appearance of the Fantastic Four, which is their first appearance of their suits, and the first appearance of their Fantastic Car.
Which I can't wait for the movie.
Yeah. I'm gonna hold on to that book until the trailer or movie comes out, because
smart.
One, that's like the only like old FF book that I really want, aside from the first Doom, but I got that one. But I really like that cover because it is retro sci-fi. Because they're in their suits, they're like in their hover car, like flying over the city. So it's like really cool, and that's what the movie is.
I'm so glad they're sticking to that like retro futurism.
Yeah. So, I got that book. That's a crazy book. That's a book that you don't come across often, and a ton more. So right now I'm just doing the dirty work. That's bagging and boarding, and grading all the books.
You built out your office incredibly fast.
Yeah, and incredibly cheap too.
Yeah. Hackerman's on a lot of the stuff.
I'm trying to think of the most expensive thing in there that I like didn't previously have. Yeah, aside from the books.
The water cooler.
Genuinely. I think that might be the most expensive thing. Yeah. I hustled on Facebook Marketplace.
You Facebook Marketplace so hard.
Yeah.
And got so much stuff.
I got an L desk for like $30, and then I got I got that one for $40, and then I got big.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that's a nice desk.
Yeah, it's like this, and then has a nice little, L, as the name suggests.
Yeah, and then I got a big like processing desk where like I'll, pack everything to ship. So, it's I'll mainly be dealing online via Instagram. So check me out on Instagram at Spros Comics. Yeah. I'll send Dish my pop-up graphic. So it's right here, so for you guys to see. But I'll do like in-person stuff at some point. But I'm not gonna. I don't plan on being like a full-time open
shop
9 to 5 comic shop. Yeah.
Well, there's not really a reason to if you're not doing like new comics that people rely on. Like if you're basically a private dealer, who's purchasing and selling books that people are like specifically targeting, there's no real reason for you to tie yourself to the office all day, all week, all day. Yeah.
So, you can check it out, sproscomics.com. I think it'll be in the description. But yeah, that's pretty much been like my last month-ish, month and a half, maybe.
Yeah, it was a really fast month because you started thinking about the space. That was probably a month and a half ago. You made a call within a week and toured, locked it in probably a few days later, and then you got a call about, or how did it happen? You saw the potential of buying a big batch of books.
Yeah, so
and made a deal.
What happened is I recorded 2 videos for my comics channel, one of which is on up, so you can go watch it. The other of which is not up because it was like the last push. It was like an interview that I did with a comic shop owner here in the LA area, and it was the last push that I like needed to like go and like seek this out. And like you said, everything happened so fast that I've just been doing that for a month and a half. And so I haven't had time to like finish filming like the B footage for this video and editing it. But anyway, so I went and traded a bunch of books for the first appearance of Dr. Doom with another seller, friend of mine who's also in the LA area, and did the trade, decided to interview him a little bit. And he operates out of a little space, like not like a street side retail location, just an office space. And I just was getting his story, kind of hearing how he came up. This is like a side hustle for him, and was just kind of like inspired, and also like didn't realize how cheap office spaces have been going for
Right.
in the post-COVID era.
Right. Working from home is so much more common for like private practices now.
Yeah. So talked with him, and I was like, and he was like, yeah, man, just like go check out some like office spaces in your area. Like see what's out there, see what the prices are. And he's like, and I can like guarantee you can probably negotiate whatever their price is down. So I was like, all right. Started thinking about it, didn't like really think much about it. And then got an opportunity to interview this other guy. So I interviewed him, and he's got a retail shop, one of the best shops in the LA area, I'd say. And I was getting like his history, like how he got into his retail spot. And he said he started off in like a little shack, like up the street from where he was at.
Oh, really?
And if you know, like, I mean, you know that area, like it's like a little like industrial-ish kind of over there. So he said he just was in a shack somewhere, and then he moved to where he was at, except he was in like a building behind, and those were smaller buildings, and he was in there for a while. And then the previous tenant of the place that he's in now left, so the landlord told him he could move in there if he wanted to, so he moved. Wow. So he just like climbed his way up. So all these people, like, or these two people, I guess, but they started small and like grew. And the guy in LA doesn't, the first guy I interviewed, he doesn't like have any desire to like grow past what he's doing. He makes plenty of money doing online stuff, especially as like a side hustle thing. And then, the retail shop started small, worked his way up. And I remember when he quit his job, because he still had a day job. I think he was like working for like AT&T or something. And yeah, then I found his shop, and I remember when he quit, because things were going good, and he hasn't gone back yet. So
it's a good feeling.
He says sometimes he feels like he might need to go back, but he always finds a way. So
yeah, I think if you find that you thrive in no boss type work, it's kind of hard to go back to a rigid schedule that's not created by you. It's hard to, I think if I was in that position, I would much rather, I don't think, unless I really fell out of love with what I was doing, I can't imagine choosing to go back to working for a company as opposed to just like putting in some elbow grease and, working harder to get where I wanted to go.
America's not perfect, but in America, you can absolutely pursue your dreams.
Yeah.
And America sets you up, for the most part, to be able to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah. Ambition is rewarded here big time. I don't know. I mean, I'm not experienced enough to understand other countries in comparison, but I agree. Like the American dream it's not climbing the ladder or the rat race. It's like, if you can dream it, you can do it. Yeah. If you can dream it, if you can work hard, it's yours. Yeah. It's very cool. It's been exciting to experience it, I guess.
The free world.
The free wild.
Wild.
The wild. Oh, what are you showing me? Come on.
Open your eyes.
Oh, we finished watching The Penguin last night. And we just watched The Batman. Ago. Oh, 2 nights ago. Yeah. It's so fresh in my mind. Won't spoil it. But oh my gosh. I can't wait to watch the Batman smash his face in.
Yeah. I can't. Oh, man.
The show, if you've watched it, well, it doesn't really matter. It went from awful to worse and worse to horrific. And it just left you with such a sick... It left me with a sick feeling.
Not in its quality.
No, not in its quality. In just the evil... unsheathed. And it's one of my favorite concepts in storytelling and literature, in any sort of media, is what someone will do when put in like when given the opportunity to do so, like what evil will unfurl in the heart and show to people. Not when pushed, because I don't want to say, I don't think that it's like environment makes you evil. I think it's what evil resides and what can fester and grow from a seed.
Yeah. Well, something that I didn't say on our Comic Room podcast from yesterday that I had kind of been thinking about is, in the case of Penguin is not a result of the corruptness of Gotham.
Nope. He's part of it.
And this show like made it clear. Like, yeah, he's part of it. He's the one who pushes it along.
Yeah, he's like one of the sources of it.
Yeah. And the show made that clear by giving us a look into his childhood. And like,
I'm glad they did that. I'm glad that they didn't give him like a sob story background.
Yeah.
He had a bad leg, but
yeah. So
otherwise.
Yeah. I was trying to thought, but yeah, so
Sorry.
it's okay. Yeah, he never like had like a situation like Bruce Wayne where it's like your parents are slaughtered in front of you. Do you come out of that a hero or a villain? Like, it just seems like his mom said, like, the devil's in my house. Like, it's just something he always was. And Gotham was the right place for him because it could help kind of cultivate that, but Gotham didn't create that within him. And so I feel like, you know, when you think of like the Joker movie, you think like, oh, Gotham created the Joker, and then there's like the rug pull and yada yada. You know, it's all confusing by the end of what it's actually trying to say. But if you look at it from the perspective of like Gotham created Joker, then you're like, oh yeah, Gotham's like the big villain. But then when you look at it from the perspective of like the world that Matt Reeves is building, you're like, Gotham is just this wicked place, and it like wickedness just like sprouts from it, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like something that it created. It's just like the natural cycle of life.
Yeah. Not really in a tangible, like this happened to this person and that caused this reaction.
Yeah. Like just literally like a spawn. Like,
yeah.
Penguin is just like
this place is evil and there's evil people in it.
So naturally evil people are going to come out of it. Yeah.
Right. And evil is rewarded. I think.
Yeah.
With Penguin, it's hard to say when the evil really started, but it certainly didn't slow down or get better.
Yeah. So, I mean, I won't give any spoilers, but there is somebody in the show who does become a victim of Gotham.
A true victim.
Yeah. And if you follow me on Twitter, I connected it to Agent Nadeem in the third season of Daredevil. Like, he was a good person who got wrapped up in Kingpin's kingpinning.
Yeah, his promises.
False promises, of Hell's Kitchen. And Agent Nadeem dies by the end of that. And yeah, so he was a victim of the city. And yeah, same with another character, and actually a couple characters.
Yeah, a few. I would say Sophia is a victim.
Yeah, because they portrayed her as like innocent before.
Yeah. Yes. Like
before she got curious.
Right. Yeah. She did awful things. We don't need to sugarcoat that.
Yeah.
But if she had not lived in Gotham, I don't think she would have become that.
Yeah.
But with the Penguin, I mean, with Oz, it didn't seem like there was something that triggered him to do what he does.
Yeah, I feel like they were really clear on that. So,
which I'm glad for. I think we need more variety and less of the same story being told. Like, this person evil because evil thing happened to them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the Sony movies. Like, they're making these movies based on Spider-Man villains, but they're making them all anti-heroes. And honestly, like Venom at this point he's not even an anti-hero. He's just like a hero.
Yeah.
So Sony's doing that, and they're setting up like the Sinister Six battle with who knows what Spider-Man they're going to make it the Sinister Six fight. But still, like, you look at, like, as the audience, you would look at that Sinister Six team that they've built and all those villain movies they've made, and you'd be like, oh, wait, I thought those were like good guys. Like, you portrayed them as good guys so far, and now they're fighting like the goodest guy. So now I'm confused. It's good guys versus good guys,
or worse guys, bad guys, and worse guys. I think that's something that was in the trailer. It's interesting how culture shifts and how we portray and categorize people changes.
Yeah.
As people want to see themselves reflected in media for plenty of different reasons. Whether they want to feel like I'm a damsel, or I'm a victim and I need a savior, like I need a Superman, I need a Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I need like a truly good character, or I'm evil because all of these horrible things happen to me, and maybe I don't think anyone could watch, like, even if they had given a penguin like a really bad, horrible, traumatic backstory, like I think you would still look at Penguin at the end and you wouldn't feel like I don't think anyone would want to see themselves in someone like him. So I'm glad they did not pull any punches with him. not a single one.
So I think it was the Comic Room podcast episode we did that was after like the third or fourth episode. And I posted this clip on TikTok, and I basically said, like, the Penguin so far is showing us why we need heroes, because it's showing us how evil things are, and how naturally, like, it's written on, you know, every human heart that we want to see justice.
Yes.
And so I pretty much like talk about that, and then when I get to the end, I say, and because of all that, I can't wait to see Batman beat the brakes off Penguin.
Right.
Like, it's going to be such a satisfying moment. And that's what fell flat for the Joker movies. You have this evil guy who's done evil things, and they do the rug pull. But the whole time, like, that in that universe, it just feels too dark because there's no, like, sense of hope in the show. There's no sense of, like, justice is coming. Even, like, in the court scenes in Joker 2, like, his opposing, the prosecuting lawyer is Harvey Dent. You're like, okay, well, that dude's a villain too. Like,
right.
there's no hope in those movies. There's no sense of, like, hope coming. And they had already established in the first movie that Bruce is like 10 years old. So you're like, okay, like, Batman's not like,
he's not coming for a long time.
Right, exactly. So, but in the Penguin, you know that there's a Batman out there. Like, you know, he's waiting.
You see crossover characters. You see, it's in the same place. You feel the hope.
And so this guy comments on my TikTok and he says, I don't get how people see that show and think the Penguin is the problem. You want a billionaire to start beating people up instead of Gotham not being a place that creates people like that?
Very curious what that person thought after the last couple episodes, the flashbacks.
Yeah. Obviously couldn't have seen that coming. But I mean, I didn't respond to him because I just, like, flat out disagree. It doesn't, like, the Bruce Wayne's wealth.
It's kind of irrelevant to his Batman.
Yeah, but also the whole point of like his wealth is the fact that, like, he has so much money and yet he can't fix the, like, worst parts of his life.
Right.
Like,
he's in a prime position. He's in a political, social sphere and has that power, and he has the ability and the choice to defend Gotham as the Batman, but he still can't fix it.
Yeah, he had all that money. His parents had all that money. Richest people in Gotham. And yet their money couldn't keep them alive. Like,
right.
So him being a billionaire is not like, this isn't like some, like, Elon Musk
not Elon Musk
or Mark Cuban, like, where you're just like, are these people out of touch or, like, whatever? It's like, no, it's the money is there to show that, like, money doesn't save you from everything.
Right. Yeah, that's a big one.
So I feel like people I see it a lot online, especially recently. And maybe it's just like I feel like in recent years, people especially hate the rich.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I've seen that argument against Batman in a long time, but it's like,
Mm-hmm.
just use your brain a little bit and have a little bit of critical thinking skills to figure out why is he rich? Is it rich because they just wanted him to have all these like fun toys, or is there more behind it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's the message that's trying to be delivered?
Yeah.
You can't always just one-to-one to reality and
And
like compare him to real life billionaires.
yeah. And if you read comics, you know, he can't even like, he still can't fill that void in his life, even after having like 4 different Robins, 3 Batgirls, and like creating his Bat family. Like he's trying to fill that void in his life, and he's still like such a like angry person, like in that sense. And that's why he has to be Batman, is because that's how he lets that anger out. But
Yeah.
even having the 3 or 4 different Robins and the handful of Batgirls and Batwomen, he couldn't train and support the lifestyles of enough family members to bring his parents back.
I'm so glad that they didn't give us the Penguins, the Oz's background until near the end, because I think the assumption probably is, well, yeah, actually, you do assume that horrible things happen to him because all we know is that his brothers are dead.
Yeah, he's got like that
And he
scar
doesn't have his
across
dad.
his face.
Right, he looks like a victim of Gotham.
He's got the limp, yeah.
But come to find out, he was not created by Gotham. He just found his place in it and thrived in it. And yeah, I think that's actually really good. I think that's good for the audience to see that, like, not every villain is going to have their actions justified in any way.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect example. Like, he is evil. He is a boil, a disease of Gotham. He is part of the reason, the way that it's the way that it is.
Yeah.
I mean, how much blood was spilled?
Yeah.
Innocent and otherwise, because of him. Yeah. It's good. It's a bit subversive.
And seeing all the evil is going to make Batman like better. Yeah. Like, we're going to love Batman more.
And I also think Batman is not like a 2D story either. Like it's not just like Gotham bad, Batman good. I mean, the whole first movie is him figuring out that he has to be more than vengeance. He has to be more than just the rage that fuels him against the forces that took his parents away and hurt so many people. So, I mean, I can't help but compare it to Joker, Folie Adieu.
Yeah.
And the ways that at least we both feel and think it falls flat. Yeah. But yeah, anyway.
That's why I love
Penguin was awesome.
Yeah. That's why I love the Batman.
What are you showing me? what? Sorry.
That's why I love the Batman, is because like the movie is because it's one of the best. It beats any Batman / Bruce Wayne arc out of all like the Nolan trilogy. He has more of an arc in that first movie than I feel like Christian Bale's Batman did across the 3 movies. Learning to go for, like you said, from vengeance to hero is big. And then next for him will be learning how to use his Bruce Wayne persona.
I can't wait.
I remember that being a huge criticism of the first movie, and I'm like, we already know this is going to be a trilogy. Like,
just give it a minute.
Yeah, okay? Yeah, like
or 2 years.
4 years.
4 years.
So, can you have me?
Yeah. Anyway, me making a joke about Penguin derailed us for 15 minutes. From what I actually wanted to ask you about. Because I've anything else? I'm sure on the podcast you talked about, or you're in the Comic Room podcast. Your and my dad's podcast.
I don't have a podcast about urine.
On the comic room.
Yes.
I'm sure you talked more about like the business side and like the industry side, but I was curious and I've gotten to witness it. So I don't necessarily, I already know, but I want to hear, I'm sure it would be helpful for our audience to hear more about just like more of the mental side and the, just like your journey with how you've gotten from, working in an office under working in someone else's office, and then what, like the last 3 or 4 years, starting to become an entrepreneur and getting to the point of like taking the leap and committing to something tangibly, like, yeah, I guess I've gotten to witness you struggle with things like committing to doing something in the past.
Yeah. So yeah, when we got married, I was working in a basement. Literally
A dungeon.
it was called the basement. And I did IT, and there was no windows. It was dark, often cold.
Oh gosh.
It was nice. Don't get me wrong, it was a really like pretty build out. But
Still.
yeah. So I did that for about 4 years. And there just came a point where I was starting to lose it, like towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like I can't. Yeah, I just couldn't handle it anymore. It's pretty much what it was. I didn't like the work. I didn't like being in that dungeon, and I needed to get out.
It wasn't the healthiest dynamic at work in some ways.
Yeah, there was also just some like new. The culture had like shifted a little bit, and there was just like tension.
Yeah. That doesn't help.
Yeah. So anyway, at that same place, there was a coffee shop on campus. And as you guys know, like I'm big into coffee, and they were moving towards reopening after COVID. But during COVID, they had to let everybody go. So they were looking for somebody new. I knew the manager of the place. He was pretty much like solo running it. And he asked if I wanted to help. And I was like, yeah, for sure. And at the time, I would say I had aspirations to like do something in coffee, like open up a shop or whatever it may be. So I was like, yeah, for sure. So I took a pay cut, and I switched. That. Yeah. And I switched to go work, to go like be like to be trained to be the new manager for this place. I had a really fun time. I did that for a year. I had a really fun time. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about coffee. I learned a lot about hospitality. I learned a lot about managing people and personalities. Like as much as a year could teach me, like I feel like I could genuinely look back on that and say I took as much out of that as I possibly could have.
And you didn't hate going to work, which made me a lot happier.
Yeah.
Made me happy that you were happier.
Yeah. And so and the mornings were earlier too.
Yeah.
And that's not
you
like
were up and at 'em.
Yeah. But then the promises that I was kind of given in the beginning seemed to like kind of fade and be put on like lower and lower on the priority lists as far as like that whole entire like workplace was. They just, and like no blame to them, like they had a lot of stuff to think about prioritizing, and the coffee shop just wasn't one of them. So which makes sense because it was probably a loss out of like what the whole place was generating. So at that time we had an opportunity to move, and so it was like, okay, well I either stay here, stick it out,
commit.
and we've like full commit for the next probably at minimum 5 years.
And not, we were basically at a crossroads. Like either we leave now or we're over here for a long time, possibly permanently.
Yeah. And so we just took the jump. We just said, screw it, let's go, let's leave.
We took our last chance out.
Yeah. So we moved, we left. That was kind of like the cusp of your like growth.
Yeah, that was during, like, I had hit my first big growth spurt with Genshin audience. And then, oh, excuse me. Yeah, I would say that's when, like, it during that second phase, it was like when I got my Tommy Hilfiger sponsor, and I had started to grow like my personal brand more beyond like just Genshin Impact.
Yeah. And so I was doing Genshin stuff too at the time, and it was like successful.
Yeah.
Pretty successful.
Genshin was so easy to make content from.
We moved. I kept doing Genshin stuff, but it wasn't anything that I really like necessarily enjoyed doing. I always preferred Valorant. But when we moved, I would say I had a hard time figuring out what it is I wanted to do. So I did the Genshin stuff for a little bit. I had a couple of videos do like really, really well. But I didn't like enjoy it. So I went through like a year of like kind of just muscling through that and just doing it because it made sense. And then last year, for whatever reason, I still can't point to anything that caused this, but it was just everything around my life was perfectly fine. Like life was good. Family for the most part was good.
We were good.
Yeah, we were good. We had Asher.
Ashley was good.
We had Murdoch. Things were like, everything from the outside was good, but for some reason, like my mental was just like torched, and I couldn't figure out why. And it was, I would say, probably one of the darkest parts of my entire life. And that's when, like, if you keep up with my content, like that's when I was just like off the internet. I wasn't streaming. I wasn't posting videos. I wasn't doing anything. I was literally just like waking up and just like trying to figure out how to like carry myself to the end of the day and get to tomorrow. Not in like a really, really dark way, but just like a fighting like the inner battles and like literally just like trying to motivate myself to like do something and to be productive with anything. Like, I mean, this isn't like a specific example, but like an example would be like if I had like, I don't know, built like that coffee table, like that would have been enough for the day, like for me, like to be like, okay, I can say that I did something. And so just through like a lot of just prayer and silence and just going through it really. Yeah, I would say just one day, it just kind of like one day was good. And I was like, oh, okay. And then the next day was good. And then the day after that was better. And at some point it just turned and I looked back and I was just like trying to figure out what it was. And again, like I said, there's nothing that I could point to. I think it was just like one of those spells in life that you kind of just have. And yeah, so I came out, I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot. Yeah, just learned a lot. And so at that point, I'm feeling better. And now I'm figuring out like, okay, what am I going to do? And so I think that's when I started to do HSR content a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Earlier this year. And I enjoyed it, but it was just like, like I'm not like super stoked on this. And then we moved. And when we moved was like when everything like shifted.
Moved again.
Yeah, so we moved into the house and then I got my own office space because that was the thing about where we lived previously in our apartment was everything I was doing was in our bedroom. And so I was like literally.
It's like the dungeon effect again.
Yeah. Like my life was like lived in that bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
Like I worked in there. I streamed in there. I edited in there. I slept in there. My comics were in there. Like my whole life was in that bedroom. We moved. I got my own office space. And immediately, like all the ideas that I had like had, I was finally able to live out, like, or like build out. I had told Dara's dad at some point a long time ago, like, hey, we should do a podcast. He was like, oh yeah, that'd be fun. You know, he's got a job. Like
He's busy.
And he didn't like, aside from saying like, oh yeah, that would be fun. I'm sure he probably like didn't think about it again. Excuse me. And then we moved and I was like, hey, you remember when I like had that podcast idea? Like, I'm serious. I'm going to build it out like in the office. And he was like totally on board. He was like, yeah, like that would be fun. And he was like, and it might even like save, our wives from having to listen to us talk comics, which it still hasn't, because
it doesn't. The moment they start, we're like,
a podcast episode could easily be 6 hours.
Yeah.
We could just sit there and ramble.
That would be good.
That would be funny. Maybe one day
I'm just go as long as you can.
I'm just gonna like a one camera setup, and we're just gonna record as long as we possibly can. That would actually be pretty funny.
Like a subathon, but podcast version.
So yeah, built out the podcast, and it had just kind of like reignited the desire and passion for content, and finally like just kind of collaborating, I guess, the two things that I enjoy the most, creating and comics. So yeah, that's kind of, since June I've kind of been more like full sendy with that. And I just feel like naturally, at least for me, this seemed the most natural. And that's why, like, same thing with coffee. Like, I got into coffee, and then I worked in coffee, and I had my own coffee cart where I was like catering for a while. And then same thing with when we got that first PC. Like, my mind was always figuring out like, essentially, like, how can I monetize this? Like, I feel like this is something that's like good to be monetized. It's like when we bought the first PC, my whole thought process was like, well, if I'm gonna play games,
might as well stream
it. Like, there's no harm in that. And that might have been the greatest decision we've made post getting married.
Yep. It was, we weren't going to do a money dance at our wedding.
Yeah.
So we were convinced to do a money dance by somebody. Who was it? Paul?
I want to say Devin.
Devin?
Yeah.
Devin. Oh, yeah. We talked about this, right? And that's the reason we had enough money to get a PC. And I was cool with you getting a PC because I hated how much you hated your job and wanted you to have something you could enjoy. And then one day I was like, can I use it, please?
Yeah.
Here we are.
The butterfly effect of that is crazy. So, yeah. And in comics is a lot different than like content creating and coffee, because there's a real active market with comics. And so what makes comics such a great hobby is you can almost always get your money back. And that's not true for many hobbies. Like, of course, hobbies, like when you pay for something, a lot of the times you're paying for like just the enjoyment of it or like whatever. But like, let's say like your nail tech thing.
Oh yeah.
Like that you just picked up, right? You really enjoy doing your nails. You invest into like all of these. They're dead.
They're dead. I took them off.
You invest into all of these like nice pieces of equipment. You couldn't, it would probably be hard to get somebody to like buy that stuff off you. Like,
oh, the tools.
Yeah. Like you invest into it for yourself and for your own personal enjoyment. And that's that.
Someone did ask me if I would ever considered selling press-on nails, though. So you never know.
Yeah. Golf.
Mm.
Golf is one of my other hobbies.
Right.
It's expensive.
That's some pay.
Yeah.
Receive.
I can sell my equipment for I can sell my equipment, but it still would go for a lot less than what I bought it for.
Right.
But I have to pay to play. Like it's so what is it? Paywall.
Yeah, paywall.
It's very paywall.
Huge paywall in golf.
But comics, I mean, you can pretty much, as long as you're not buying like junk penny books, you can pretty much almost always get your money back.
If you have the know-how, anyone can start at any time, pretty much.
And so with that, that's kind of like what led my mind down the like, why not just have like a revolving door of like comics and stuff coming through and turning over. And
yeah, you started slow. Like you started selling on eBay and you bought the thermal printer and you had like some shipping stuff and it was all just like a natural progression of like, if I like comics, why don't I make comic content? If I make comic content, why not do like a podcast and then build out an office? And well, if I have this stock, then I should start selling. Well, if I'm selling, then let me really sell.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason why I just started selling on eBay, like it was like shortly after we moved, was just because I had some books that I paid pretty cheap for that were like getting like really hot. And like I had the first appearance of Red Hulk, which is who Harrison Ford is playing in the upcoming Captain America movie. Right. And so that first trailer dropped, and so people wanted his first appearance. So I had a couple copies and I sold them and I made money, and it was all easy. I did it inside my home.
Yeah.
And so I did that with a few other books, and that's just like a nice feeling.
It is great.
It's like when you, honestly, it's even better than when you buy a stock and it goes up, because most of the time like you're holding stocks for a very long time. So that like gratification, that like dopamine hit isn't like there because it's like years in the making. But it's like I bought a book a year ago. A year later, I'm selling it for like double, almost triple what I bought it for.
Dang.
And then, you know, eBay takes their percentage, whatever. But like that was a good feeling. And so I was like, oh, that's fun. That's nice. And so, yeah, I just kind of like slowly snowballed it. I didn't immediately jump into it, because that's a bad habit that I have, is like full sending it into stuff without being ready,
or without being sure that you're like gonna want to stick with it.
Yeah. So like I bought the coffee roaster, and a very expensive coffee roaster, and I mean, the Lord worked it out, honestly, because I was going to lose a lot of money just trying to get rid of it and giving it to somebody that, you know, would have, I was very happy to like lose money and to like sell it to this person. Yeah. But we go to make the sale and we go to do a power test. And mind you, I literally bought this thing and then just never pulled it out of the box. Like I was convinced I was going to get into roasting and I just never pulled out the box. So I pull it out of the box and plug it in and it doesn't turn on. So I contact the company, and 9 months ago I bought this thing, and I'm like, there's no way they're going to give me a refund. I explained the situation and they were like, oh, we'll send you parts. Then we'll have like a Google Meet video meeting. And I'm like, dude, I'm not a tech. Like I had to go Karen. I was like, I'm not a tech. This is very expensive equipment. Like, yeah. The fact that your product didn't work out of the box was embarrassing for me, and it's embarrassing for you. So I was like, what's the best way that we can like figure this out?
You went Karen a little bit. Yeah. Not like crazy rude. No. Karen, but like standing on business Karen.
Yeah. And I never do that. Like,
no, you're always so kind and acquiescent.
Yeah. And sometimes you're like, oh, like, go. Like, I was like,
no. My order's wrong. Oh, go tell him. That's fine. Yeah. I'll do it.
Yeah. So it's something I never do, but I was like, okay, this is expensive equipment. I'm not going to learn how to be a technician for a roaster of some like you
You're
can't
not
just
even
like
gonna use it.
I feel like you just can't ask somebody to do that. Like so yeah, I stood on business and I was like, there's gotta be another way.
Yeah.
And then just come to find out that I had actually emailed them like shortly after I got the roaster and being like, hey, can I actually just like get a refund on this? And they never responded.
Oh, I didn't know that part. That helps your case, I'm sure.
And so I sent them the screenshot of that. They looked it up in their system, they couldn't find it. So like that and the fact that like I said this, but they agreed that like it's embarrassing that I went to go sell this and that it didn't turn on. Like they sincerely apologized to me for it, and then they said that like they were embarrassed on their behalf also because that's not what they want their product to be. And so with them missing the email or the email just not going through, and then that whole thing, they were like, "We'll give you a refund." Yeah. So I was like, "Oh, I did not expect that."
And yeah, you just had to send it back to them, and the shipping was less than you thought it would be. Yeah, it worked out very well.
So, yeah, anyway. That's just an example of just something that I full sent into that I never ever followed up on. But the Lord worked it out in the end.
I think it's a good quality that you enjoy and like can invest yourself quickly into new things. Because I think I do that too, but I'm just very I probably err on the side of being too frugal, and like I pretty much never want to be in the red on anything.
Yeah.
Like never in my content career have I been in the red. And I will like bum it with bad equipment until I can feel like justified in buying something for my business. I think I've gotten better about it, but yeah. What was different this time as opposed to like, you know, we talked about you were going to roast with some buddies and didn't end up doing that. You were going to roast by yourself. Didn't end up doing that. Obviously like gaming content with like Hoyoverse games that didn't stick. We even talked about opening a coffee shop, and that was something that you wanted theoretically, but hesitated on a lot. What was different about this one for you internally and just like on a practical level?
I think mainly I have like a full and complete understanding of comics. I don't know everything. I haven't read everything, but as far as like how the market operates, I follow it pretty closely, and I know like day to day, week to week, I'm very like in tune with that. And it's easy because like in the coffee world, you can have success locally with your shop, but I'm kind of like a nut about coffee. And so there was just things that I felt like I couldn't achieve because I don't have the accessibility to it. Either it's expensive to get into, or I'm just like I don't have connections to the top of the coffee world. While I don't have connections to like the publishing side of comics, like I don't know people who work at Marvel or DC or any of your indie publishers. I have connections to the top Instagram consignment sellers.
Yeah. And how did you get that?
Just by being a customer and being a good one, I guess. Like when you're around enough and you're buying enough and also making content helps, because then you become like a recognizable name. Like all those things like played into it. But yeah.
That's very similar. I'm just realizing with how I think most of my content is, I think it's a mix. Like when I was full sending into Genshin, it was very easy to get acquainted with the community and get acquainted with like the content creators, because when I was a small streamer, because I liked the game and I wanted to learn more about the content space, I was just an active chatter in all of, well, not all, but content creators that I liked, like streamers that I liked, I was just active in their communities.
Yeah.
And at least I can say it wasn't with any sort of ulterior motive. I just enjoyed it was natural. Like, why wouldn't I want to be in their chat rooms if I liked them and I liked the game that they're playing? So all of those like friendships kind of developed naturally. And so it was easier to step forward confidently with like doing Genshin content, doing collaborative content. Like it just fell into line. Like it felt natural with a little bit of push from me.
Yeah. I feel like that is what makes content creating, like, it seems like it's a daunting task, because you're just like, well, I want to be a Fortnite content creator, but like I'm not clicks. I don't know clicks. Or I want to be a Genshin creator, but I'm not Dish. I'm not Fob or whatever. Like
the true gacha gamer.
I'm not. I want to be a Valorant content creator, but I'm not Tens. I'm not Kyo. Shout out Kyo. And so you're just kind of like, you just immediately feel like you're too far away from success. Part of it is like, yeah, you just gotta like overcome, and like you gotta be different. You gotta build yourself differently. But yeah, you can definitely knock yourself into, well, I'm never gonna succeed because like those guys like hold the market, and for sure they do, but they don't hold all the market.
Yeah. I mean, something I've always said to people who are interested in being content creators is that you should analyze and look at the content creators you watch, because you're probably going to see qualities of them in yourself. And if there's an audience for them, then there's probably an audience for you. So your job is to figure out how do you serve that audience, and how do you give them something that like benefits them in some way. Yeah. Anyone can do it, I think, theoretically.
Yeah. So I'd also say I kind of became like this accidentally, like this voice, not like the number one voice, but I made a couple YouTube videos criticizing the state of prices at comic conventions compared to the price of books on Instagram. And
it's borderline price gouging.
Yeah, and Instagram is like, a lot of these guys that I know that like run the top consignment pages, is they're like, they require their sellers to be close to market, and it's like if you're not at market value, you can't sell with us.
No.
But
no one's gonna buy it.
At conventions, there's not that accountability, and so they can get away with. I mean, I've made some videos on it. You can go watch them. I'm not gonna like explain it, but if anybody's buying like some of these big books, like at these prices, they're getting like, price gouged. They're getting scammed. They're getting ripped off. And I've talked about this and criticized this enough, and I've never outed a seller. I've
singled anybody out.
I've never singled anybody out. I've blurred faces when I've used examples, like prices of examples. And I had this one guy who I used as an example, didn't show his name, didn't even show his booth. I showed a book, but he recognized that it was his book on my video. And then he came up to me, he saw me at a convention, and he started yelling at me and cursing at me. And so
he's lucky I wasn't there.
He is, yeah. It caught me off guard. I was literally like laughing because I did not know how to respond, because you just don't expect that. And then, but once he started like cursing at me, that kind of like shattered like I don't know what to do. And then I just like tapped him on the shoulder and I was like, all right, see you later, man. And
I'm sure that infuriated him.
Probably, yeah.
Now you're.
But I gave him the opportunity when he came up to me. He asked me if I was recording, and I was like, no, do you want me to? And then, because I didn't know what he was going to say. I could tell he was like a little like on edge, and obviously I recognized him. So I didn't think he was going to yell at me. I thought maybe he just was going to want to say his piece. So he came in, he's like, are you recording? I was like, no, would you like me to? He's like, I don't care. I was like, okay. So I turned on my camera, and then he started yelling at me. And I was like, hey, we can go sit down outside and talk about this.
It was like in the middle of the con floor.
I'm literally in the middle of the con floor.
So inappropriate.
So I said, we can go outside.
You want to take this outside, you said?
Yeah, I said, we can go outside and we can talk about this if you want. And he didn't want to do that. Like
his head was already hot.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't listening to you.
He just took the opportunity to yell. So I let him yell for like a minute and a half, and I'm laughing because I'm like,
Right.
and I was definitely way more on the defensive.
Sure.
And like I was kind of like anticipating anything could like happen because I'm sorry, this guy was off the rails. Like,
Yeah, it was mad.
he should not. I mean, dude, you should not be owning and operating a business if you can't take criticism.
Yeah,
Let alone
I mean,
it's not even like public criticism. It's only criticism that pretty much.
He's lucky that it was you and not someone else.
Yeah.
Because there are definitely some comic content creators who would have taken the opportunity and plastered this guy's face all over the internet. But you didn't say anything. You didn't talk about it anywhere. This is probably the first time that you're talking about it.
I think I hinted at it once, super briefly, on the Comic Room Pod.
Yeah.
I think when I was talking about like opening, like starting to deal, I just had like mentioned briefly, like, yeah, and getting yelled at con floors for videos that I made, and then like I moved on.
That is the best way to handle stuff like that. Like you can't give the people,
But I could have
give someone what they want.
Because I had his consent to.
Yeah.
I mean, to turn it on, record. I had. What was it? 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes.
Yeah, the fact that he did that while being recorded is crazy.
I probably could have.
You showed it to me, and then you deleted the footage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could have probably ruined his business, but
you
that's not the work that I'm into. Like,
no,
that's not what I'm out there to do.
That's easy clicks, but what is it? It doesn't
bring value to anybody,
and it doesn't align with your character and what you want to accomplish in this content space for sure. Hey, and now you're a dealer.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Cool. I just was curious if you have any advice for someone who wants to do something, is passionate about something, but finds himself hesitating for whatever reason, especially anxiety. But
yeah, I mean, I hesitated for a long time, and honestly, for me, looking back, I'm glad I hesitated for as long as I did. I needed to. One, because I also didn't hesitate in like other ways, like the coffee roaster, right? Like that's something I didn't hesitate in. But as far as like full sending it into something and like really giving myself like to something, hesitating taught me a lot about myself, specifically like my fears. It exposed me to my own fears in like a kind of like, I guess, like a deeper way, like having an understanding of like what it is that I'm afraid of, and wrestling with, okay, I'm afraid of this. Why am I afraid of this? And so thinking through that and hesitating, like if I would have full sent it into coffee, like that would have just been a very expensive venture.
Yeah.
Would have incurred a lot of debt.
Yeah, we would have had to take out a business loan.
Yeah,
or something like that.
Yeah, and so I hesitated there. I hesitated with a couple other things, and not that if I full sent it into those things, it would have been bad. But I'm just really happy with where I'm at now, and it was something that, after hesitating for a long time, seeing this opportunity and seeing this potential, it just made it like, it was weird because for the let's say 2 years, because that's about the time that we moved, or did our first move, it made this yes a super easy yes. Like there was like no doubt, no hesitation,
right,
in my mind. And so there was even a little bit of like, I'm trying to think of the word that your dad used. Divine affirmation. Because the day that I signed the lease, literally executed the lease, and they were like, we'll get you the keys on Monday. We went out to a new burger spot to celebrate. We came home, we watched Across the Spider-Verse, because that's a journey. That's a story about like overcoming expectations and being who you want to be, and the hero that you want to be not the hero that other people think you should be.
Mm-hmm.
And so we watched that, and then literally in the middle of that, it was like 10 o'clock at night. I got a text, a picture of a bunch of crazy books. First appearance of Kingpin, first appearance of the Avengers, first appearance of Vision,
Yeah.
first appearance of Agatha Harkness, and like crazy big books, like third appearance of the FF, and had all those, and or got a picture of all those, and it was just like, are you interested in any of these? And I just wondered, how about all of them? And then
Yes.
and then worked out a deal with those, which then led to a lot more books,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot more. And yeah, it was just like sign the lease, date with wife, and it was like the Lord saying like, okay, now like here's your inventory. Like it almost like it's like a reward.
It's like a reward. Yeah.
Yeah, like a just
You're
I
on the
jumped
right
out
track.
in faith and for doubting myself for so long, and even just like doubting the Lord and like right, like not trusting that like he can provide. Like he literally provided
right away.
instantly.
Right away.
And so yeah, like I'm super thankful for I like that phrase your dad used, divine affirmation. I think that's what he used, but yeah, the divine affirmation in that moment. And yeah, for you for believing in me and being patient with me through like all of my mental struggles and figuring things out. And I was thinking about it last night or yesterday rather, that just I think is because because we were in London when I got news that a buddy had passed away.
Oh, right.
Who had worked at the comic shop here in town.
I remember.
And so it was like it popped up a couple days ago. And then yesterday I was just like thinking about it because I went to that shop and I was just like, man, like a year ago, like I could have never foreseen this. And who knows what it'll be like a year from now. Maybe it'll be worse. Maybe it'll be better.
Yeah.
You never know. But I'm glad to be here now and to be, just operating in faith and operating in boldness and confidence that I can succeed. And I just had to put a little bit of pressure on myself. So,
yeah, I mean, it was hard watching you go through those more difficult, like stalemate periods with you, but stalemates between you and your interests and passions and like ambitions. And but I trusted you and I trusted God, and I remembered how many times you've believed in me, both in word and in action. Like, it was also easy for me to say yes to moving into a bigger place, getting you an office. And I had seen you, I mean, you'd stuck with comics longer than I'd seen you stick with anything.
yeah.
And you were so knowledgeable about it and so enthusiastic. So it definitely felt different than the other times. But I hope that you don't have any regret, and it sounds like you don't, because all of those no's and all of those roadblocks, all of those hurdles led to this yes.
Yeah.
And this continued yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm excited to see. I mean, this is only the beginning. Like,
it is.
I haven't even sold anything yet. Like, I'm still doing the groundwork of getting it all organized and making like bookkeeping it all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just excited for what's to come.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you. If
What are you smelling, bud?
I found his chip.
Is
Is that your chip?
that your microchip? So we can find you.
Yeah, if you're interested, sproscomics.com, link in the description. But before Christmas for sure, I will be launching Spro's Comics Coffee.
Ooh.
So the first run is going to be limited, and it's going to be like a vibe test.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking probably early December. I need to make a label.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much as soon as I make a label, I can start doing it. But yeah, if that's something you're interested in, just give me a little comment. Let me know, like if that sounds cool. I have the number.
Beans.
I have the number that I'm like gonna shoot for, like as far as like this first drop. But if I see that there's enough people out there that are like, oh yeah, like I want, like if the number seems to be way bigger than the number that I'm at, then I might bump that number up for the first drop. But
I feel like people will be into it.
yeah.
And then if that goes well, who knows? Maybe we'll do tea blends.
Yeah.
And you'll do tea blends. We'll work together on it.
Yeah. We'll have a Spro's Comics coffee and then logging off tea.
Woo! Yeah, logging off tea. That sounds fun.
So, yeah, if that's something you're interested in,
it'll all be in the description, and we'll update it as time goes on.
Yeah. So, before Christmas for sure, like delivered before Christmas.
Yeah.
At least NA. I don't know.
Yeah, Christmas gifts if you want to get some coffee beans for somebody.
Yeah, but not global yet.
Not global.
Sorry.
We're working on it.
International is complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So once I get more into like figuring out my shipping with my actual product, and getting comfortable with like NA, then I'll figure out what it looks like shipping internationally. But I do know that a lot of international people who deal a lot with like NA based sellers and companies and stuff, they normally have like a way. Sometimes they'll have like a PO box that like,
oh yeah,
yeah, that way it makes it easier. But anyways, so
Jason has stuff. Jay Chung has stuff shipped to a PO box that's like in the top corner of Washington. That's just like barely. It's like right next to the border of Canada. So that's how he gets stuff shipped to him.
Yeah, that's funny.
Clever.
So, yeah, that's any more questions?
No, I think we got everything.
Nice.
Yeah.
What
was the other thing? Oh, we're going to stop gatekeeping the podcast. And by that, I mean, we're going to start putting out short form content. We're going to hire an editor because I've been like, oh, I'll do it. You know, I have it all on my PC already, but I don't know why I have not found I haven't been doing it. I've been doing other stuff. So I'm going to hire an editor to do, what was that noise? To start editing shorts for us. So our logging off community is hopefully going to be growing soon.
Yeah.
But it's been nice having cozy, quiet, gate kept conversations for this first season. Well, we're in season 2 now, but yeah we're gonna focus on growing the podcast. Over the next forever.
Well, forever.
We're gonna be one of those like 1,000 episode podcasts.
Yeah, isn't Joe Rogan on like 3,000 or something like that?
Something like that. He just titles them the same every time. The Joe Rogan Experience, and just the picture, just like a screen grab of the person. Crazy. I wonder how much he makes on each podcast episode. Sometimes they're like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Wonder if he has sponsors. I don't know. I haven't seen any.
Yeah, I think he does.
Podcast. Everyone's starting a podcast.
Cringe.
But starting podcasting. Who would do that? Y'all want to see me wish me luck on my Pokemon pack opening?
Woo woo. Let me see if I have any.
I have one. My internal clock went off. My life revolves around this right now. Make sure you can hear the music. Oh, do I love that sound? It's my ritual. Ugh. Guys. Oh, I got a Ghastly, though. It's my first Ghastly. All right, that's not so bad.
My turn.
Your turn.
Whoa, crazy.
Ooh, wait, turn it up.
Two.
Really?
I can't see.
Slowpoke.
Ooh.
Ooh, I always lose to that card.
Oh!
You already have a Vaporeon? I don't even have one.
Can I trade?
Not yet. There is going to be trading. This is not yet available. I love registering to the Pokedex.
Wow, value.
Actually,
at least one of
value.
us won.
I haven't gotten a good pack in a while.
I swiped for that pack, like the in-game, currency. Anyway, let's end it.
We got to go. There's someone outside fixing our fence. Thanks for watching the podcast.
Bye.
Oh, that camera died.
Probably
Good night.
overheated. Bye.
Oh, overheated. Bye. Bye.